So when we're born and when we're little kids, we're already kind of like programmed to listen to our parents. And it makes sense because I mean, these guys literally created us. They're older than us. They know more than us. And if we don't follow our parents when we're younger, you would get spanked. Maybe you got punished. Maybe you got grounded, timeouts in the corner, all these sorts of things. So, when we're kids, we're already programmed to listen to our parents. That's how it's supposed to be. However, I'm a strong believer that I'd say after 18 years old, once you start becoming an adult, I'd say the best thing that you can do is to slowly stop listening to them and following them. This might be controversial. Obviously, I know that some people aren't going to agree with me, but I'm going to explain in my story how not listening to my parents just changed my life and overall gave me a better life. And when I think about it, I think that if I listened to them, my life would actually be a lot worse than it is. Let me tell you this story, and the information I'm going to tell you to help you is within my story. And hopefully you can kind of see it and relate to it in some way. This started when I was around 18 years old. And before 18 years old, I was super obsessed with like really caring about what my parents thought about me because my parents are immigrants. I live in the USA and my parents aren't from here, obviously. So from like the get-go, there's like a huge instant pressure to do really well in school, stay out of trouble. If you're a first generation child like I am, then you could probably understand this. But from the get-go, since I was born, I was always supposed to, make my parents proud. And if I didn't, they would yell at me a lot. They were not abusive, but they would yell a lot. They would always tell me to do stuff, do this, do that. This isn't good for you, study this. So not only was I pre-programmed to like follow them, like most of us are, like pretty much everyone is, but it was just emphasized, especially for me. And this started when I was 18 years old. I went to college for the first time. I ended up choosing a school within my own city, the city that I grew up with, because I didn't know a lot about school. So I just ended up picking like a school there. Pretty small school, nothing too special. And long story short, it was absolutely terrible. I was failing classes. I did not have good grades, and I almost lost my scholarship because I was on academic probation. So my second semester, I really had to lock in. Excuse me. I really had to lock in my second semester of going to school because if I didn't, then I would lose my scholarship and I couldn't go. And if I couldn't go to school anymore, well, my parents would not be happy. But luckily, thanks to God, I got rid of that. I got rid of the problems and I finished the semester really nicely. But during that bad time, I thought to myself, there's so many problems here. A part of the reason why I got those bad grades during my first semester was because I always felt like my family was holding me back. So for example, when I started college for the first time, there's lots of homework to do, obviously. But I noticed that lots of my time would be taken away to do that homework because my family was always calling me and depending on me to do things. My parents are a little bit older, and I do have a godmother too, who is also older too. So, they might need a little more help with things. They might need me to go to the store for them to buy something. They might need me to go with them to do something, whatever. And so I found that they would depend on me lots of the times when I needed to be doing homework or when I needed to go cook or go do some exercise. Sometimes I didn't have that. I had a very inconsistent schedule and I could not do lots of things for me personally. And I saw this and I feel like that was a big reason. That was at least one of the big reasons why I got bad grades. And those 2 semesters were extremely hard for me. Something I think that was extremely hard, the most hard and difficult time of my life. But that was part of the problems. And seeing that my family was depending on me all those times, I'm like, if I need to finish school, I think I'm going to leave the city because not only will that give me the chance to grow, but I won't be distracted. I can finally focus on myself. It's just me in the world. I won't have to worry about my mom asking me to do things, my dad, my godmother. It will just be me. So all those problems, it led me to think that, okay, time to pursue something new. And I always wanted to be like other kids in my city and, go somewhere new, just a fresh start for my city. That first semester basically made me think a lot. It really made me reflect a lot on what I wanted in life. And my big decision was to leave my hometown. And when I told my parents this, they were extremely upset. And from the title of this video, you can probably guess that I didn't listen to them. But when they told me that they did not want me to leave the city, it was extremely difficult because, like I told you before, I was super obsessed with making them proud, making them happy. I wanted to show them that, hey, I am doing something successful. And when they tell me that they don't want me to leave and when it's a bad idea to leave my own hometown, and when they talk down about the idea, it made me really upset to see them upset. And they were basically saying that I would lose myself because I would hang out with the wrong people. I would start being involved in drugs and alcohol. My dad told me, oh, it's going to be expensive. You're going to have to live on your own. We're not going to be there to help you. And they were telling me all these things. But despite that, I was just like, dude, I feel really called to leave my hometown. And not only have these problems with the first semester of college have led up to that, but it's also the fact that, as I just previously mentioned, I just needed time to focus on myself. I just needed to be by myself and solely focus on myself. I had seen other videos previously on YouTube and social media saying that the best thing a man can do is move out of his parents or move out of his hometown and leave his parents. And I was like, dude, I think I'm going to do this. But that whole time I was planning on going, my parents just rejected the whole situation. It was an extremely hard time. Every single day when I mentioned me going through the process of transferring schools, applying to get everything ready online, all that legal stuff, they're basically putting me down, everything. And it was really hard to see that. I just wanted to make them proud. And it seemed like this decision that I was making, which was the right decision for me, I knew it was, but they didn't see it. They didn't agree with it. And I even told my parents, dude, I'm leaving to a city that's 3 hours away from my hometown. You guys literally migrated countries. You guys traveled millions of miles, thousands of miles, and you think this is a bad idea. You think it's going to be dangerous. And if anything out of this video, if you're someone who's also thinking about leaving your hometown or not listening to your parents, I would highly suggest to. Because when I finally left, I'd say my life got instantly better. So not only, as I previously mentioned before, that I have the time now to just focus on myself. I'm not getting calls from my dad and my godmother asking me to do things for them, asking me to go to the store for them. It's just me and myself. And not only that stuff, but I also know how to live on my own now. Because before I was so dependent. I was so dependent on them making me food. I would cook a little bit for myself, but, I was so dependent on them making food for me, them cleaning up for me. But now living on my own, I can finally understand how it is to just cook for yourself and just take care of yourself in general. I have a roommate and I live with him. And living with him has made me realize that, dude, when you live with someone else, you need to always pick up your stuff. And I noticed that when I would live with my parents, when I would live back home, I wouldn't clean up a bunch of stuff. I would maybe shave and just leave all the hair there, or just leave a bunch of stuff. But now living with my roommate, I realize it's just the right thing to do to clean up after yourself. So previously I didn't clean up after myself. I would never do that. But I noticed that ever since leaving my hometown, I would finally take care of the bathroom and everything. And it's just made me realize, living on my own, that, when I live on my own, I don't want things dirty. This is my apartment. And I'm now that I'm finally back home, I can finally clean up after myself. This isn't even my house, so I'm going to clean more. Something else that I've realized too is that your parents don't really know who you are. So for example, my parents were basically brainwashing me into thinking that, oh, this isn't for you. It's going to be expensive. It's so many miles away. You're going to lose yourself. But it's just I know what I wanted. I know I had to leave. And yes, they're my parents. They're going to look out for me. They're supposed to care and love for me, but they're coming from a place where they just want to protect you. They don't want to be uncertain with you because you're their family, you're their child. So they're coming from a place of not necessarily always being negative, but it's the fact that they want to protect you as well. So hopefully that makes sense. But if you're someone who's thinking that you should maybe take a decision that your parents don't necessarily like, or do something that's really controversial, I would recommend you do it, Because if you don't do it, you're never going to find out if that decision changes your life truly. I think that if I didn't make the decision to leave my hometown, or even just listen to them, if I were to listen to them and actually say, oh, you know, right, I'm not going to take that, I'm not going to move cities, I feel like my life would have been a lot worse. I would have met the people that I did going to a bigger city. I wouldn't have understood the responsibilities that you have when you live by yourself. And I wouldn't have started creating this movement for you guys, finding my talents from other people in school. And I would just have a worse life in general. I would probably still be with them, living under the roof, being distracted, not having time for myself. And I feel like this is something that's holding lots of guys back, but lots of guys don't know whether they should do it or not. And hopefully from this, you can actually make a decision and understand that your parents, they're coming from a place of wanting to protect you, not necessarily trying to put you down. And the fact that they don't know you, you know, they're your parents, you might be close with them, but they don't know who you truly are and who you're going to be. Only you can feel what you're feeling, like this, what you're feeling right now. If you're feeling about leaving your city, you're not listening to them at all. Only you can feel that. They're not going to feel that whatsoever, because they're not you. You're feeling this for a reason, and it's in your mind for a reason. So take that, apply it to your real life, make the decision to do what you actually want to do and not care what they think. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.